Hello, I'm Shell. I'm one of the teachers here at IELTS Advantage. Today, I've got a short lesson for you on a common grammar mistake that I see students make all the time in part 1 of the speaking test. So I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to give you some examples and also some ideas of how you can work on improving this area of grammar so that you don't make the same kind of mistake. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a short task that you can use to practice with. So the kind of grammar mistake that I see students make in part 1 of the speaking test is with verb tenses. Now, in part 1 of the speaking test, you will be asked questions about everyday things. And what a lot of students think they should do to prepare for part 1 of the speaking test is prepare, for certain topics, certain common topics. And there's no such thing. There's no such thing as a common topic in part 1. Look around your room, wherever you are. Basically, whatever you can see in your room, you could be asked about in a part 1. So, I've got a computer here. I could be asked about a computer. Got some pictures on the wall. I could be asked about pictures. In the pictures are airplanes. I could be asked about airplanes. Behind the camera, which you can't see, I've got a door to my garden, and in my garden, I've got grass and trees. I could be asked about grass or trees. I can see the sky. There are clouds in the sky. Looks like it's going to rain. So I could be asked about sky or clouds or rain. There really is no limit to the number of different topics you could be asked about in part 1. So please do not waste your time thinking that you can just prepare for some common topics because there's no such thing. However, you will definitely be asked to talk about now, before now, and after now. So prepare for something that you know you're definitely going to have to do. So let's do a little bit of practice now. I've got a pen here, so we'll do some questions about pens. So you could have questions that ask you something about now, like, do you have a favorite pen? And then, you got to think about, okay, so the examiner is asking for me to talk about something now. So maybe, yes, I do. I have a favorite pen. And then you need to develop your answer a little bit. So if this is the pen I wanted to talk about, I might say, so again, the question, do you have a favorite pen? I would say, yes, I do. It's not expensive, but it's one of those kinds of pens that has got 4 different colors of ink. So it's got red, blue, black, and green ink, and you can change the ink. I think is quite handy. That's what I would say. Or you could be asked another kind of question about now, like, how many pens do you have? And then I would say, I've got about 50 pens. I haven't bought all of them. Some of them I think I got at work, or, I think, if I ever stay at a hotel or go to a conference, they usually have free pens and I end up coming home with them or something like that. So these are questions about now, and I use some verb tenses to talk about now, but I didn't only talk about now in my answer. I also said some things about before now, like I got some of my pens from work. So I used the simple past there. So it's not like if the question is about now, you can only use verb tenses to talk about now. Not at all. You might want to develop your answer, right, by talking about something before now. And can you switch, confidently between verb tenses to talk about different times? That's something the examiner is listening for. So you might get questions about before now. So you might get a question like, did you write with a pen or a pencil when you were in primary school? So then you got to think, okay, the examiner is asking me to talk about when I was in primary school. This is something before now. Do you know what verb tense to use? I'm going to use the simple past because I'm talking about a completed action in the past. So I would say, I used a pencil when I was in primary school. And then I'm going to develop my answer. So I'm going to say, I don't remember if we were allowed to use pens or not, but I think the reason why we always used a pencil is because you can erase your mistakes. So children make lots of mistakes, and it's handy for them to be able to erase their mistakes and try again. So again, I used some verb tenses to talk about before now, but also I used the simple present because I stated a fact or something that's always true. Children make a lot of mistakes. That's the simple present because I'm stating a fact that's true about children. And I know that if I'm going to do that, I use the simple present. So again, just because the question's about before now doesn't mean you can only talk about before now, right? I did answer the question directly, but then I developed my answer a little bit, by saying something else. I could also be asked a question like, have you ever received a pen as a gift? Now, the question is using the present perfect, and I know that the present perfect is used to talk about things before now. So when I give my answer, right, and I'm thinking about the past, I'm thinking about whether or not I got a gift, I got a pen as a gift, and I did. So now, what I need to decide is, well, what verb tense am I going to use? Just because the question was in present perfect doesn't mean my answer is going to be in present perfect. The question was about before now. So my answer is going to be about before now, but I have to use the right tense. So if I got this question, have you ever received a pen as a gift? I would say, yes, I have. I got a pen, using the simple past because it's a completed event in the past. I got a pen for my husband for our last wedding anniversary. And then I would develop it with some more details. I might describe what the pen looks like. That would be a good way to develop my answer. I could also get questions about after now, like, do you think typing on a computer will replace writing with a pen in the future? Now, I'm being asked about the future, and I'm being asked to speculate, like, what do I think is going to happen? So again, the examiner is listening to see whether or not I have the right grammar to be able to do this. So if I got this question, do you think typing on a computer will replace writing with a pen in the future? I would say, yes, I think it probably will. And then I would say why. So to develop my answer, I might say, university students, for example, use, they take notes on a computer, they write their essays on a computer, they communicate with the teacher and with their fellow students using a computer. I really think that in the future, this will become even more common. Now, in my answer, I answered the question directly, and then I developed my answer by talking about something that's happening now as a way to support my opinion. So again, just because I'm asked a question about after now doesn't mean that I can only use future tenses when I'm talking or when I'm giving my answer. So here's your task. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and I just want you to answer them. So you need to think about whether or not I'm asking you to talk about now or something that's, always true, or before now or after now. And I've got a map on my wall over there, so you are going to get some map questions. So the examiner would say, now I'm going to ask you some questions about maps. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to answer the questions. So I'm going to leave a pause, basically. So just keep the video running and answer the questions. And if you are still talking when I ask you the next question, then that will give you some indication about whether, your answers are too long or you're speaking too slowly. So this is two reasons why this might happen. If you're speaking quite quickly and you're still talking when I ask the next question, possibly your answers are too long. If you aren't finished your answer, like you've answered the question directly and you're trying to explain a little bit, but I'm asking the second question, maybe you're speaking too slowly, right? Now, with our VIP students, we do mock speaking tests, and then we're able to tell them, whether their part 1 answers are too short or too long. We can't do that here, obviously, but it will hopefully give you a little bit of an idea. So here we go. Now I'd like to ask you some questions about maps. Do you often use a map? Did you learn how to use a map at school when you were a child? Do you think people will use paper maps in the future? That's the end. All right, so I've asked you 3 questions, one about now, one about before now, and one about after now. Think about your answers. Think about your verb tenses. Think about whether or not you are confident that you use the correct ones. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. If you aren't, then maybe you want to do, a little bit more practice. Maybe you want to do, spend a bit of time studying, different ways of talking about before now, or different ways of talking about now, or different ways of talking about after now, and brush up on this grammar. And then, do this kind of practice on your own. You can do it about anything. You can just look around your room and you can see that you've got a sofa over there, and you might want to see if you can talk about, sofas before now and before now, or furniture before now. You can make up any kind of question for yourself that you like, or, questions about now. But, you can sort of see how easy it is for you to automatically be able to produce and to use the correct verb tense. So what I'd like you to do now is post your answers below. I'm going to post the 3 questions below this video so that you can see them, and then write your answers, 2 or 3 sentences, no more than 3 sentences. And then you can compare your answers with other students' answers and look at the verb tenses. I mean, do you know which verb tenses are correct? Do you know if other students have made mistakes and why it's wrong and what it should be instead? So you can use that to help you study as well. The fewer mistakes you make with verb tenses, the better. The fewer mistakes you make overall, the higher your IELTS score is going to be. So if you found that useful today and you would like more help and more advice on how you can increase your IELTS scores, then please subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.